What's up, guys? Scipio here, coming to you from the future. The future in which we have polymer cased 556. So this stuff, as you can see, is made by True Velocity. It's, again, polymer 556. I've seen this stuff for a while, and just now recently remembered it existed and figured, let's buy 2 boxes of it and do some tests on it. Now, I've already done one test, which we will get to before we go to the shooting portion on this ammo, but the other tests will go out there. We'll just see the velocity. We'll see, actually, if this stuff doesn't heat up your gun as fast as normal brass-cased ammo, and then, we're going to see if the test that I already did on this stuff ruin the ammo and causes it not to cycle. That's honestly not really much of a test, or at least a scientifically accurate test. It's more so just me getting rid of 7 rounds that I'll have left over. But anyways, before we get into any of that, let's open up this box here. Now, they really do make this stuff look very fancy. Got all the images on there. This camera... Very fancy packaging, and it makes sense because this stuff is actually not cheap at all, despite being made out of polymer. I paid around $24, if I remember right, for a box of 20. So yeah, not cheap at all. They do a little bit fancier packaging, and you can honestly tell that you were holding, I'm going to say you can tell that you were holding a box of polymer case because it is exceptionally light. Now, putting this one back, because this is the one I haven't opened. That's your box. Again, opens very fancy. And then your rounds are packaged very fancy. Now we can see with the construction of the round, we pull one out, you can see you do actually have a steel head on there, and then the rest is polymer, kind of like a shot shell, really. And as mentioned, this stuff is considerably light. So anyways, we'll put that back. And now, before we go out to the range to do all the tests that I had mentioned, we will go over the one test that I have already done. So, I'm certain at least a few of you are aware that I am in Arizona, which is actually just hell on earth, and it's unbearably hot every single summer. So, this next test, I figured, you know, one thing with ammunition is you want to be able to store it. And, like, let's say you just leave some in your car. Well, in Arizona heat, which, mind you, is around 117 easily for a very long time. Again, it's hell out here. If I were to leave, like, a magazine of this stuff in my truck, would it start to deform because, you know, it's polymer and it's getting hot and it's got a feed, or like, you know, the lip of the magazine just pressed onto it. So, naturally, what I did, I have a 20-round mag right here, and I just had 7 of the polymer case rounds on top, and the rest are just brass to provide some pressure. So, this has actually been in my truck. I'll have to look at when I order this ammo because I pretty much just put it in there immediately. And when I put it in there, the average temperatures were about 117 outside. So obviously inside your vehicle, it's going to be a lot hotter than that. And these were in there for weeks. Today is like 102, if I remember right. So that kind of gives you an idea of the extreme heat that these have been in. So haven't taken these out yet. We'll see if there's any type of indentation. I doubt there'd be anything on the bottom one. But this top one, I mean, aside from that little scratch that came from the magazine, the cartridge actually doesn't appear to be deformed at all. To be honest, I kind of expected that, but it was just a curious little test I figured to do nonetheless. I guess we can take some of these out and look at them, but mostly that top one is the one I would think would get deformed. Yeah, kind of just looks the same. We'll dump these last 7 off. We'll dump the whole mag off, but we'll shoot these last 7 towards the end of our video. But anyways, let's head out to the desert and test this stuff out. Alright, so we're finally out in the desert. This filming's actually taking place months after that first clip because I kind of lost my desert spot and then didn't have time to find another one till now. Anyways, we are going to start off with the heat dissipation, just seeing how well these suck up heat, because that is one thing that it was advertised as doing. So I brought my M16 out today, so I only brought 20 rounders, so I got one 20 rounder with 20 and then another with 10. We're going to do 30 through this one with the polymer cased ammunition, and then I also have my friend's AR that I borrowed, and we're going to do just regular brass and see if the wolf brass is hotter than the polymer ones. Hopefully I have a good camera angle. Internal is 71.6. Now, I will say I'm not sure if 30 rounds is going to be enough to see a temperature difference, but that is what we are getting is, oh wait, 73.79. It's around 73 to 74 inside the chamber. Going about 78 degrees when we get right to around the locking lug area. Just for kicks. So inside we are looking at about 78 to like 74 degrees. Now we're going to go grab the brass cased ammunition with the other AR and see if there's a temperature difference. All right, so I got my friend's AR right here. We got the 20 round mags, actually a nice little cold waffle man right there. So once again, we're going to do a dump of 20 plus 10 and then see what if we get a temperature difference.
Yeah.
30 of brass right there. 75 solid. 79 to about 80 degrees when I go towards the lock. So with that out of the way, it does seem like the polymer case stuff is a little bit cooler. Now we have that magazine loaded with 7 on top and then the rest loaded with brass just to give it some tension on it that I left in my truck for a good few months when it was 117 degrees out. And we're going to see if it has any issues. All right, so here's that magazine that was sitting in my truck for a few months in 117 degree weather, outside mind you, so inside it was a lot hotter. We're gonna see if we get any issues with it. So far it doesn't look like it's deformed at all or anything, so that's good. Oh, and I will say, my one friend who had actually shot this mentioned it had a weird odor and made your eyes kind of burn. I will say in regards to that, it smells like normal brass ammo and my eyes aren't burning just yet, so let's hope the rest of the day, well, that won't change. But anyways, we got 7 rounds of polymer and then, yeah, 7 rounds of polymer. No issue there, it ran pretty good, especially considering that it was again sitting at the pretty hot heat. Now, last off, I think the best thing we can do, at least as far as our tests go out here, is to test what the actual velocities are coming out of these. They feel a little bit reduced, like with the recoil. They don't feel too much reduced, though. It honestly does feel like shooting regular 55 grain 5.56. So let's go ahead and get the chronograph, and we'll see if we get any velocity changes. All right, so for this, I figured it only fair when testing 5.56 to go with a 20-inch barrel. So I got my M16 clone right here. We've got 3 rounds of ammo. $31.65, $31.11, $31.19. I gotta say, that is going pretty darn fast. I really expected there to be some type of velocity reduction just because we're dealing with polymer cased ammunition. I did some practice shots with some brass case before this, and it was coming in at around 3,000, a little under, like maybe 29.95 or whatever. But seeing high velocities with that, I am genuinely impressed. Again, it feels like you're shooting normal 5.56. There's no difference when you're really shooting it. But still, the fact that we're getting pretty good velocities with a polymer case like that, I mean, that's fairly impressive. So yeah, I gotta say, I am beyond impressed with this ammo. I mean, there's certainly probably more tests we could have done, but the ones that we did perform, especially the velocity tests, really have actually impressed me with this stuff. I figured with a polymer casing, we would have at least seen some reduction in velocity, but the fact that we were maintaining 3,000 plus feet per second through the 20-inch, I gotta say, that is actually very impressive. Another thing that's impressive that we haven't really touched on too much, I did make mention of it, was the lightweightness. Now, I mentioned that this stuff is lightweight, and it comes comes in at around half the weight of a regular brass casing, which I know that doesn't seem like a lot, but for my standard rifle, I tend to keep around 280 rounds, and were I to replace all my brass case ammo with this polymer stuff, we would see a weight reduction of 2 pounds. Now, I know all the Billy Badasses in the comments are going to be like, well, that's only 2 pounds, which by all means, carry it if you want to, but I think reducing any weight where you can is most certainly cool, especially when you can do it with a cartridge that will perform about the same as regular 5.56. Now, before we go, I figured we would take a look at the brass casings. You know, not really too much of a difference right here. They're obviously still intact and all that. No signs of any, like, bulging. There was, like, a little sign of a tiny bit of overpressure, but aside from that, the casings do seem to be in pretty good shape. What do you expect from casings? And neat enough, actually, this is kind of funny. I noticed it when I was setting these down. While these are like a plastic, you know, they don't really feel like plastic. They almost kind of feel like a porcelain. I don't know. I thought that was kind of funny that they do feel kind of weird. Now, there is going to be some people that are obviously curious on reloading these. I might try it. I'm not really sure that you could, though, because as we all know, when brass casings are fired, they expand to fit the chamber, and then for reloading, you got to run through a sizer. I don't know that you could really run polymer through a sizer without it reshaping. I imagine there is some type of heat treating you would have to do with this that, well, it's just not really doable for the average reloader. So for those planning to purchase this and go about reloading the casings, I do have bad news for you. I really don't think you can. But anyways, I think that is going to do it for this video on this polymer cased 5.56. I really hope you enjoyed the video as much as I personally enjoyed making this one and actually doing this one. I've been wanting to test this stuff out for a while, but as mentioned, I lost my desert spot. And I finally got one, and we got to test it out. So that is going to do it, and I will see y'all next time.